Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this little video series that I'm doing at the moment. So yesterday we were looking at self-confidence and identity. Today we're moving on to look at fear. Fear is a topic that is hot on the news at the moment with this COVID-19 outbreak. We're seeing people that are crippled with fear, and in many ways I don't blame them at all. It is a scary time at the moment, but actually being crippled by fear is not a good thing. And so I want to spend just a few minutes looking at fear. When I was about 17 or 18 years old, I went on a night out, quite a big night out, if I'm honest. It was a friend's birthday. So we were really up for a really good night out. And it got to that point in the night where I needed to go home. But I wasn't going to go home without that all-important kebab. So I left the bar and I walked to the kebab shop to buy myself that all-important kebab. Obviously with chili sauce. You can't have a kebab without chili sauce, can you? And then when I got the kebab, I walked back to the bar and sat outside that bar, eating my kebab, waiting for a taxi home. The next thing I know is there were a group of lads who had been in the bar who came out and surrounded me and asked me to go for a walk with them. At which point I very politely and very British of me refused and said, "Do you know what, guys? I'm just eating my kebab, waiting for a taxi to go home. I'm tired. I need my bed. But thank you for the offer." And they asked me a couple more times. And again, I politely refused. "I'm all right, honestly, lads, thank you, but I'm eating my kebab, waiting for a taxi, and I'm going home to bed, thank you." After a couple of times of asking, they began to get a little bit more aggressive with me, started shouting and swearing at me and saying, "You need to walk with us." So it went from being just a polite ask from them to being a command, something I needed to do. And these guys weren't messing about. I knew that if I didn't go with them, then something was going to kick off, and I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want the moneymaker being ruined. And so I walked with them, but really hoping that as I walked with them, I'd see somebody that I knew or somebody who knew me, and it would scare them off. This didn't happen. I tried running away, but before I knew it, I was pulled back, and then they all surrounded me, so I couldn't try and make a run for it again. The next thing I know is I'm down this alleyway next to Blockbuster Videos in my hometown, and again I'm pushed against the wall of this alleyway, and they surround me again, and they say, "Hand over everything you have. I want your phone, I want your wallet, I want your keys, I want your loose change, I want everything that you've got. Give it to us now." And they went on to say, "And if you don't think we're being serious, if you don't give it to us, I'll shoot you." I have no idea if they got a gun or not, but the ringleader's hand went into his pocket and he pointed it at me. And I have no idea if it was a gun, if it's his fingers, or if it was just a banana. I have no idea. But I wasn't about to find out. I gave him everything I had, but somehow managed to come away still with my mobile phone. I have no idea how that happened, but that's what I came away with. That after they taken my wallet and all my money, they ran away and they scarpered into the distance. And I was left in this alleyway, frightened, shaking, crying, not knowing what to do next. And I ran back to the bar that I was in. Thankfully, I knew some of the staff on the bar, and they rang the police, got the police involved and everything, and got my dad down to pick me up to take me home. Also, I take me to the police station to write all the statements that I needed to. After a very long night, I woke up the next morning full of fear, but knowing that I still had to muster up the energy and the desire to go to college. And I got a lift into college. And then at lunchtime of that college day, I walked into town with a few friends. And in the distance, as I was walking to town, there in front of me, crossing the road, was the guy who just hours beforehand had been just centimeters away from my face, asking me to give, or telling me even to give him all my things. I was frightened. I didn't know what to do. I turned away and ran back to college. And before I knew it, I was stood in front of a police ID parade, picking out the ringleader, who had caused all this fear for me. And this actually really defined the next 6 to 12 months for me. I was full of fear. I didn't want to go out, and I only ever went out when I was persuaded to by friends or by family. I really didn't want to be going out. I wanted to stay at home where I knew that I was safe. My house became this place of safety and refuge for me. Everywhere outside of that was just a place of fear. I didn't know it. I didn't trust it. I didn't want it. And those times where I did walk alone, at times I'd hear like footsteps in my ear, and I'd be convinced that somebody was following me. Of course, nobody was following me, but that's what it felt like. I believed that somebody was following me. And like I say, that just defined my next 6 to 12 months. And it took a lot of hard work and hard graft to kind of get over this time, and a lot of emotional conversations with friends and family about how to move forward from this. But I was crippled by this fear. It impacted my life, and I didn't want it to anymore. And I'm not at all trying to compare what I went through right now to what's happening globally at the moment. What I'm saying is that I know what it's like to be crippled by fear. And at the minute, there are so many things that are unknown to us about this virus, so many things that it's going to impact. So many people will be fearing right now losing their jobs. People right now will be fearing the potential of loved ones dying. There'll be all that kind of fear going on. Fear of not being able to care for people that you love, not being able to see them, only being able to see them via a video screen like this. And there are so many fears of not being able to keep up with bills, with mortgage repayments, with rent repayments. So much stuff is encapsulated into this time that we're in at the moment. But I want to tell you that there's a place where we can find hope. Because let's be honest, place that we find hope at the moment in our money, in our work, in our housing, and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't always stand the test of the trials that we go through. It doesn't. Like I said, people are at risk of losing their jobs, so all that job security is going. There is no hope there at the moment, or very little hope anyway. But I want to tell you that there is someone who we can place all our hope into that has stood the test of time. He stood for over 2,000 years. He stood the test of time. He's gone through trials. He's gone through tribulation. He's had people love him one minute, hate him the next minute, and want him dead. And he died on a cross, the most brutal death. But then he rose again victorious 3 days later. Then 40 days after that, he rose up to the heavens to sit at the right hand of God, where he sits and he reigns now, where he is the King of Kings and he is the Lord of Lords. And he is the person that we can place all our hope into. He is the person who will not let us down. He will keep all his promises. It says this in the book of Hebrews. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain, where our forerunner, Jesus, has entered on our behalf. He has become a high priest forever. He has become the high priest forever. And it talks about there in that scripture, where it talks about how we have this hope that's entered the inner sanctuary. That was a place that only the high priest could go one time a year. But Jesus has entered that place now for eternity, and he is calling us to that place with him. We can place our hope in him right now, and he will not let us down. He will not leave us. He will not forsake us. He has entered on our behalf, and he has become our high priest forever. It is him who brings us close to the Father through what he did on the cross. And in him we find all hope, and we find life in all its fullness. I don't know if you've ever placed hope in Jesus before, but you have an opportunity to do that today. You don't need to live in fear anymore. I'm not saying that if we place our hope in Jesus, all these troubles will disappear like that. I believe that they can do, but generally speaking, they don't. It just means that we are going through it with somebody who's got so much strength, way that far beats the strength that we've got. It goes way above and beyond the faith and the strength that we can muster up in ourselves. If we place our hope in him, he will pull us through. He will pull us through, and that is a promise. He will pull us through in some way if we rely on him and we put our faith and hope in him. And it starts with a simple prayer. It just says, it starts with us coming to him and saying, Jesus, I choose to follow you. I know that I've messed up. I know that I'm in difficulty, and Lord, at the moment I'm living in fear, a fear that I can't control, and I need hope. And so I choose to place my hope in you right now, Jesus, not the things of this world, because they can't stand the test of time. So I choose to place it in you, Jesus. Would you come into my life? And at that moment, that's you becoming a Christian. You have received salvation at that moment, and you now need to work out what it means to live as a follower of Christ. And if you've said that for the first time today, I would love to chat to you. I would love to speak to you. I would love to talk you through the next steps of what it means to be a radical follower of Jesus and what that looks like in today's day and age, and especially what it looks like at this time of distancing during the coronavirus pandemic. So if you have just done that for the first time today, please, please, please get in contact with me either by email or phone or one of these video network, social networks that we can get on either Zoom or Skype or something like that. I'd love to chat to you and talk you through the next steps. But place your hope in Jesus. He will not let you down.